Hey, so hi guys, welcome to my channel today. In this video today, I think that I'm not gonna spend too much like because you wonder why last 22 or 23 and I'm still working on this video because I actually uh, I'm gonna find it later. Okay, so let's start with this one. Yeah, I want to finish it as fast as I can, so let's do it. Let's say you feel public speaking, right? So you're about to go out on stage and you feel anxiety. The, the usual default strategy from one who doesn't want to have experience, he just like me out, is trying to build an advance through what experience and make anxiety is kind of just like mere thought of what you have to do. Then once you feel the butterflies, you work with them, right? You contract your mind contracts around it. Your conversation with yourself is unhappy one. It's like what an unhappy person who just can't lie. You can see people who do this all the time. Relax, I'm happy. One might and you will tell yourself you're not noticing it because your thoughts just come behind so as they can, and it seems to be you, right? You identify with each thought that is more in consciousness and multiple realize as thought is not alternative. You can look at the rule book for how to operate the human mind, right? There's no place normal dedication where we're even indicated that there's an alternative here, and so we get the kind of stone mountain to adulthood. More or less assuming that we have where we always have the mind that we have. And really there's the only thing we can do to really upgrade our framework is to design new content. We can read books, we can develop interest, but there's nothing at the sort of root level of our emotional and cognitive life that can change. If you have anxiety, there's only a place from which you can just feel it, right? And be actually indifferent to it or anything else you could be feeling. I mean, just tolerate it as even an unpleasant sensation. But first, notice that anxiety isn't that unpleasant, and also lost to excitement in its actual physiology. That's really different between excitement and anxiety is more or less just affirming. It's just the story you tell yourself, right? You don't felt these tingles and synchronized response right before you're about to go on the roller coaster. The part of roller coaster experience, right? The fact that you feel that way when you're about to have an interview, you're about to walk out on a stage, and that's terrible, right? So just dropping back and realizing the power of framing is again this is a skill that is very anxious required, but many people are learning it. Their secrets out. Most of what people care about can be thought of as a skill. I mean, well-being is a skill. Not suffering unnecessarily is a skill. Noticing your emotional life and regulating negative emotion is a skill. The moment you begin practicing mindfulness with just learning to pay close attention to nature and your experience, you're not adding anything to your experience, you're just noticing. That's start to be you moment to moment. But the way that it is not reactive, you're not grasping the present lesson or pushing the lesson away, you're just that is a story of telling yourself a story you're thinking, and you can it'll become more and more mindful of that and interrupt that more and more. You can reframe this continue and tell yourself about the story, but you can actually just engineer. You can change the code that you are running moment to moment. This sort of use of negative imagination where you think of other bad thing that's happened to you, right? You could just be stuck in traffic, drive into a job that you don't like, and you're frustrated. You can think of all the things that could happen to you, right? It happened. If any one of them happened to you, you consider your prayers answered. You could just be returned to this moment, and you could be the guy who today is going to find out that you've got 2 months to live, right? And you have to then the next 2 months spent just unwinding your worldly affairs, right? You know that guy, right? That hasn't happened to you yet. That's just more thinking. But can butterfly effect. You can reframe the experience in a way that doesn't actually change anything material about your circumstance and collect lighting, and there's many techniques like that that are just a matter of invoking useful concept skillfully. So picture this, you're in an airplane and it begins to bounce. And even those who aren't actually afraid to fly can feel anxious in significant turbulence. Now when we feel anxious, well, we in some thought that turbulence might be dangerous, like that next more likely the plane will crash. And of course, surely significant turbulence can cause a plane to crash. But as we know from the crash, this plane crashes is a very, very rare thing. So now, unless you are in that rare and horrible experience of being actually thrown around the cabin so as to get injured, it feels like that the bouncing mean is not physically painful, but it's you're not being harmed by this sensation. And in a context, you will subject yourself to even more violent bouncing and not be worried about it. Or you may to ride an amusement park, which is short, right of force on your bodily, and you do it because you're seeking that experience out. Another airplane is totally unwelcome to you. You just take the raw sensations. They're not the problem. It's what you pretend. It's your interpretation of them that worries you. There's at least two levels at which you can deal with this. First is to think conceptually about the nature of learning about what you fear. Is it rational to worry that if your plane will crash if you're experiencing your turbulence? No, actually it isn't. The likelihood of flying in plane crash is minuscule. Over across your journey, you begin to worry as you leave the airport and get in an Uber or taxi or drive yourself home in your own car. So if you understand that, if you understand that every moment in the plane is in fact safer than many moments we spend on the ground, certainly safer than when you are working as a pedestrian, fixated on your smartphone and stepping into the crosswalk. That's when your adrenaline should surge. Those are the moments where the sweat should begin beating off your forehead. Swing the plane and begin to bounce. It is in fact unreasonable to worry that the bouncing means much of anything. If we understand that actually can have an effect, they can become willing to just experience the raw sensations of turbulence. They can cease to interpret the experience as a sign of actual danger. The other level which you can address this, and these are totally compatible moves I recommend a lot of them, is to become mindful of the feeling of anxiety itself. What is it? And what does it mean? Well, it's just sensation, it's just a pattern of energy in your body, and it doesn't mean anything at the level of raw sensation. You might have thought about it, and frequently much of your thinking in your moment purpose toward to figure out how not to feel it that way or not to get it worse. Please step out of your thoughts and just become willing to feel the raw sensation of anxiety. Actually, just surrender resistance to it. Just feel it as energy. It can lose its meaning. It can become very difficult to distinguish from what under another framing would be a positive experience like excitement. How do you know the difference between being anxious of anything about to happen and being excited? For the most part, it is the thoughts that you're thinking when you feel that arousal. There's a cognitive, conceptual overlay on top of the raw feeling. You can constantly reframe things, or you can step out of it altogether and just feel the raw energy of its experience. And you do that. Anxiety can be like any other experience that has no meaning for you as a person, really. It doesn't say anything about you. So let's say you have a rash on your elbow and it's itching. And that doesn't say anything deep about you as a person. That has no physiological implication. It might be unpleasant, might be extraordinary unpleasant, doesn't reach into your sense of who you are. The deepest way to respond to anxiety. Again, I'm not saying that there's no case in which drugs are valuable or even necessary. They may very well be, but for anxiety in its more ordinary range, the deep way to respond to it is to become willing to feel it, to see, to interpret it as important and to function in the midst of it. And it will pass. Anxiety rises, but the more emotion you're not continually thinking of the thoughts that is making anxious. Actually can't stay around very long. It's your further unpleasant emotion like anger and sadness, and then continually restricted by our thoughts. And we're spending most of our time thinking without knowing that we're thinking. So mindfulness in particular is a very antidote to this problem. If you can apply it as an antidote, you can be mindful with anxiety so that it will go away. Become willing to feel it, just let it burn right in you, and discover that it matters. It simply comes and goes, and you can function. I think that this is the end of this video for today. I believe so. It should be the end of this video for today. So for now, I think that I want to go have some relax. I mean, I want to move to the 30 minute speaking. I have to speak slowly. Okay, speak slowly. Now I think I'm gonna move to the 30 minute speaking stuff. Okay, bye guys, and see you in this 30 minute speaking.